Crash Bandicoot 4, developed by Toys for Bob. There seems to be many people touching this game, but Google says Toys for Bob was the big cheese on this, so I'm gonna go with that. Since this is a continuation in an already established story, let's do a quick summary of all the crashes. Crash 1. Cortex uses a machine to mutate animals to be his army to take over the world. Crash is a mutated Bandicoot that was planned to be Cortex's general of the army. Something goes wrong while Crash is in the machine, which turns Crash insane. And he jumps out the window to escape, but he lands in the ocean. He washes up on shore of a nearby island, but he forgot to save the female Bandicoot, Tana. So now he needs to go through the islands to get back to Cortex's castle to reach her. Crash 2. After Crash beats Cortex for the first time on Cortex's blimp, Cortex explodes and falls into a cave to find a crystal. 1 year later, it becomes a power source for a space cannon. Cortex develops, but he needs more crystals. Unfortunately, he also has no friends now, so he tricks Crash into getting the crystals for him by bringing him to a warp room and telling him the fate of the world is at stake, which technically isn't wrong. Brio is also back in the game, but he hates Cortex now and wants to use the gems to destroy the space station. We eventually find out that Cortex wants to use the crystals to turn everyone into mindless slaves. So Crash beats Cortex, who goes flying through space, and Brio blows up Cortex's space station. The end. Crash 3. Part of Cortex's space station flies back into the Earth and hits a temple, setting Uka Uka free, Aku Aku's evil brother. It turns out Uka Uka was the real mastermind behind the scenes of Cortex's schemes about the crystals and the gems from within his prison. Uka Uka recruits N-Trophy to gather the crystals across time, using N-Trophy's time machine. Aku Aku gets this tingly feeling that his brother has escaped and brings Crash and Coco to the time machine to basically have a race to the crystals between good and evil. So once you beat Uka Uka and Cortex, the time machine collapses in on itself and traps those two plus N-Trophy in a time prison. And now on to Crash 4. Let's take a look at the story. After many years of trying, Uka Uka finally is able to open up a rift from the time prison, setting Cortex, N-Trophy, and himself free. But got really tired, so he took a nap, while the other two ran loose. We start off with Aku Aku getting another tingling feeling like when his brother escaped his prison. Then he orders Crash to head to Insanity Peak, cause that's where his tingles feel the strongest. We find another magical floating mask. The mask tells us that there are rift portals popping up randomly, so reality must be at risk. We have to find his space and time bending siblings so they can all combine their powers to save all of reality. We jump through random portals to get to exactly where we need to be, to find his siblings and figure out who's messing with space and time. Turns out it is N-Trophy and Cortex, except Cortex is really depressed and has given up on life. Once we beat N-Trophy, Cortex gets an idea that if he uses the time mask, he can go and stop himself from making Crash in the first place, thus solving all his problems. But his past self is stubborn and doesn't listen, so Cortex knocks him out. While past Cortex is knocked out, Crash beats future Cortex and sends him to the edge of space and time to die of starvation. Then past Cortex wakes up, runs into the other room, and we hear the intro to Crash 1 play out, thus completing the time loop and closing all discussion about time travel in this game. And finally, we end the game with Uka Uka finding Cortex in this vast void of nothingness, saving him from starvation, and leaving a cliffhanger to another sequel. Let's get into the gameplay. For movement and controls, I have to say, this is the smoothest I've ever seen Crash in all his games. They really nailed the controls this time. I have issues with the mask powers, but that's more preference than mechanical. And all the other characters were pretty nice, for the most part. Tana's grapple was really easy to use if the auto-aimer worked. Without it, you just couldn't hit anything you wanted. Dingodile's vacuum jump was super annoying. It's basically instead of a double jump, it's a hover, but instead of pressing the button twice, you have to hold it down? Why? This leads to a lot of deaths with accidental activations. In general, I think this is a great example of bad game design. When you're going to have multiple characters, be sure to have similar abilities mapped out similarly with all the characters. As Crash, you are trained to click the button twice, but then as Dingodile, you're trained to hold it down. The player's muscle memory does not thank you for that decision. And I think Cortex is creative, but I don't think anyone has made him fun to play as in any of the Crash games. The biggest issue in this game is his lack of double jump, and it's hard to predict the distance of his dash. When it comes to 3D platformers, I want to fight challenges and puzzles and enemies, not my own character. The game changed the collectibles a bit. At the end of each level, if you complete certain tasks in the level, you get a gem. Getting all the gems in one level will reward you with a skin. The tasks you have to perform are to break all boxes, 3 of the tasks are collecting Wumpa Fruit, which you would get anyway from breaking all the boxes, so don't know why that's there. Then you have don't die more than 3 times, and find the hidden gem. I like it because you get more stuff to do, but again, the Wumpa Fruit collecting just seems unneeded. I guess it's to make you feel like you're accomplishing more, but it doesn't work for me. And skins are a real nice touch. Everyone likes to customize their character and make a character their own. And some of the skins are pretty creative. I really like the balloon skin. I also like that the skins will stay throughout the cutscenes. Small things like that make me smile. But unfortunately, they didn't give any skins to the side characters, just Crash and Coco. Since there's so many skins, I would say it's a little hard to give it to the side characters as well. But if you kind of cut Crash and Coco's skins in half and then gave the side characters some of them, or at least one more skin, then I think you would have a nice middle ground between everything. The Wumpa Fruit actually come to you now, and you can't spin them away, which makes collecting them so much easier. Another small change I love. And the worst gameplay design in this game is the inverted levels and trippy ideas, because all they did was hurt my head and piss me off. Making these ideas as an extra thing is a great idea, but forcing players to do these things is 1, liable for lawsuit, and 2, just kinda dumb. Good 3D platformer design requires legibility. You need to clearly see where you're going, where you came from, and your character and collectibles need to stand out from the environment. Character design. All the characters have a very nice look to them. Very Saturday night cartoon vibe. I approve. But the references and meta-level commentary was confusing. Like Tana. Her whole character was clearly designed for a very specific audience. And all her references were also for a very specific audience. I am not that audience, so I didn't understand a lot of what she was about. It's not a bad thing, but it is limiting. Most games do limit their games into genres, made for adults or kids, gore and violence, Greek mythology, God of War, but Crash I feel went even more specific than that. And again, it's not a bad thing, it's just when you make your game super specific to a specific audience, that's the only audience that's gonna like that specific thing. Okay, so on the offbeat level, what the hell are those pink things? Those are so out of place for a Crash game. Is it a reference or something? It feels like it would fit better in a Skylanders game, which, because of who made it, makes sense, but that also makes me feel like it's a reference to Skylanders rather than something that should be in a Crash game. Either way, I don't understand it, I don't get it, I don't care for it. I think it's poor design to put it in there, but I'm sure it made people happy who did understand it. My biggest issue with these characters is the personality changes and overall story change with already established characters. It doesn't feel like a sequel, but it's like its own game. And it was really disappointing for some characters to show up for a second then leave. Like Oxide and the Gender Bender and Trophy. I really wish that those characters had more screen time. But they were just, hey, here I am, bye, I'm gone. From a game standpoint, I think it's very poor design to have a character only show up for a second just for him to leave. With Oxide, okay, yes, it was a reference, it was fun. I get that. I guess I can make that slide. But with a new character, showed up for the boss battle, left. The only reason I would remember her because I'm thinking End Trophy, opposite gender End Trophy. Okay, now I can kind of remember her. But for the most part, if she was a brand new character and a brand new design, I wouldn't remember her at all because again, she was only on screen for a second. Overall, I like these character designs. I like how they went with some of the characters. I didn't understand some of the other characters. But the problem is, you already have these characters established, and just because you make it so they come from a different time zone, different dimension, different whatever, I get it. That's the writer's beautiful way of changing wherever the hell they want to change, and not, have to hear crap from people like me. But I feel like it hurt the game more than it helped the game. Alright, what makes this game stand out? The art and music are incredible. The levels are super random and confusing, but they all look fantastic and are all very creative. The alien level blew me away with just how interesting and different, and it was great. It looked great, it sounded great, it was a lot of fun, and I love the characters and the monster designs that were inside it. I would say this game had the opposite problem of Baubles of Doom. It has a great look to it, sound, gameplay, all that, but the story and ideas were just not well thought out, or they just feel incomplete to me. The inverted trippy gimmicks I thought were very creative when I saw the trailer, I did not foresee how badly it was going to affect me physically, but I also thought it was going to be something you could unlock after beating the game, kind of like in Jak and Daxter, where you spend the little orb things and you unlock Big Head and all that other junk. I thought it was going to be like that, something you didn't need to do, but it was there if you wanted it. Unfortunately, it was kind of forced on the player, and it just did not agree with me, so I did not have a fun time with it. Masks. Crash is known for the many masks, and all this game gave us was 3 more. I don't like using these masks personally. It's a preference. I really wish they did other things, but the gameplay was solid, so I can't really bash the masks too hard. Alright, again, for me, the masks, it was all just a preference. It's either you're going to like them or you're not. But gameplay-wise, I think they nailed it on the head for what they were going for. The phase in and out mask is definitely my least favorite. It kills momentum. I just don't want to have to control the phasing. If it did it on its own, then I feel like I could focus a little more on what Crash is doing and not what the environment's doing. Wasn't my favorite. The Dark Matter mask is a lot of fun, but when you spin, it messes with the music, which is just annoying. A better idea would be to overlay it with a new sound or just not change the sound at all. Other than that, this mask I actually enjoyed a lot. The time mask is super annoying, and it's been done before so many times. The sound of use got on my nerves because every time you click to use it, it make that stupid noise, and I just didn't like it. And since you gotta turn it on and off so goddamn much and so quickly, it gets in your head and it becomes a noise. I just remember it as a noise. I don't even know what the thing was saying. And the only time I liked how it was being used was in the level where you can already see the thing on the screen and then you can slow it down. Kind of like a blade jumping back and forth, and you can slow it down so you can jump on the blade. But I didn't like the levels where the ice would fall really quickly and you had to slow it down at the right moment to use those as platforms. I just found that super annoying. The bosses. Engine was confusing. I'm not sure why he made a giant drumming robot. I get they were going with the giant robot theme, that's Engine's whole shtick, but the concert was out of his character. Although the fight itself was super fun, even though I had to use the stupid mask. The music was great, the technical wise it was on beat. But I'm fine. I thought it was a really good first boss. I just didn't get the story behind Engine. And Brio was a huge disappointment. I was super excited to see how they were going to transform this boss into something different and cool and great. And he's always mixing potions. He's the mad scientist. He's the other scientist, but he's the mad scientist. And so I thought it was going to be super cool. But they did the exact same thing as the other game. They changed so much about the Crash game, about all the characters, and they didn't change this boss fight? What? What's with that? And the inverted color part just hurt my eyes and it pissed me off. This is like Jekyll and Hyde. This is like the Hulk. There's so many different things you could have done with this character. He can transform. He's like Beast Boy. The ideas that can come with this character and these boss fights that can come from this character, and you did nothing with it. You barely changed the boss fight from the previous boss fight. Okay, fine, whatever. Cortex was really fun. It even got me to enjoy the time mask. I really enjoyed the fast-paced dodging, jumping around, basically the platforming part of the whole boss fight, and it was really fun. N Trophy was a very short and pretty disappointing boss, especially since they built them up so much. I like the phases they chose, and the use of all the masks go with the theme of you added a new thing, so you must include that new thing. But I also hate the masks, so very torn about that. But there needed to be 1 or 2 more phases after where it was left off. After you use each mask, maybe start using the masks in combination. That way you can go with the theme of you added a new thing, use the new thing. But either way, I didn't think that was the end of the boss fight. And when it was the end of the boss fight, I was like, what? That's it? What? And the idea that they added another N Trophy from a different dimension was completely random. She was like, hi, okay, bye. It's like she was here, then she was gone. What? I don't understand some of the thinking behind these ideas. I feel like they had the idea, they thought it was a really cool idea, but they didn't have the time, or they just didn't have the design. They were like, oh, this is really neat, but how do we build this out? I don't know, but let's put it in the game anyways. These are just very poor game design choices. And the final boss was against Cortex again, and I think it was well thought out. Except for the mask part, because that made me feel physically ill. But overall, I had a great time with the final boss. Mechanically, technically, I thought it was really cool. The masks were horrible. I hated that part, which is pretty much the whole battle. But I like the idea of the battles. I like the ideas that they came up with, and I like the whole story behind Cortex and wrapping up the time twisting, whatever, the time travel thing. And just to be clear, I liked how Cortex used the phase in, phase out mask. I liked how Cortex used the purple mask. I just didn't like how he used the time mask. I don't like how he flipped the screen upside down. This is just due to, I don't like when the screen gets messed with, but I like when the environment gets messed with. And I think the time mask, him slowing down and speeding up, dropping platforms, was just killing momentum, and it just felt really boring. I was just waiting for this phase to end. 100%ing the game. Some games go a little higher. In this case, did I 106% the game? No. Clearly I have a hatred for all the trippy parts and masks, so you already know I didn't even touch those levels. Again, I did not know my head and stomach were gonna hurt the way it did. I did not know I was gonna get this kind of reaction from a video game. I am not angry at the game makers for putting the stuff in the game, but I am annoyed that they didn't make it an optional part to 100% the game. The placement of boxes were annoying in some cases, like when they were off camera in a place that the camera couldn't reach. This game already limits you with the camera in linear path to levels, so I felt more like I was battling the developers rather than the game. It just came off as scummy, and in the chase bosses, the boxes didn't matter because the boss could collect them for you. It was like the devs were super hard in one spot, then super easy in another to compensate for it. Sometimes I felt like the devs were out to make a fun game. And other times I felt like they just wanted to feel superior to the players. But when you play as Dingodile and you just smash a whole bunch of boxes, that is so satisfying. When it comes to the bosses, Crash games really need something to show how many boxes you have at intervals in the levels, so we can figure out which area the last box we keep missing is at. I would have this idea unlocked after beating the game to encourage the players to 100% it. Without it, I had to keep looking up YouTube videos and figure out where these boxes are. To fully beat the game, you have to beat each level without dying. There are a few spots where the difficulty is cheap. There is a fine line between challenging and cheap. Challenging is getting a toolbox and being asked to build a house. Cheap is when that toolbox is full of broken tools, or the wood is waterlogged or charred, or not getting the blueprints to the house in the first place. In video games, jumping over a gap that requires an edge-to-edge leap is challenging. Walking on thin platforms is challenging. But giving you no room between you and the lava when you are forced to slide under a wall, then jump, is cheap. Basically, challenging is having a tiny room for error, while cheap is having no room for error. 100%ing a game should be fun. You should want to do it. Whether it's because you love the game or the final reward for the game is just a really fun mechanic that they'll give you. But in the case of Crash, I think people feel better saying they beat Crash rather than having fun with it. They just see it as a challenge and something to brag about. So because I wasn't having fun trying to fully beat the game, I didn't. So what's my final review? The game feels like a different game with a Crash skin, or a new version of Crash, but certainly not a sequel to Crash 1, 2, and 3. The only reason I can see for them to make a sequel is to make all those callback jokes on the past, but other than that, I really didn't see how this was a sequel. I think it really hurt the game. It feels like the devs were more interested in being meta than making a game. Like, you remember? You remember? I remember. Oh yeah, they buried the game. South Park. The art, music, and platforming is fantastic, but the story and jokes are forced and confusing. Controlling some of the characters is super annoying, and I think the masks were a great idea, but never got fully fleshed out. Hey, wouldn't this be cool on paper, but in practice, it's alright. To me, this isn't a Crash game, but rather a Crash-inspired game. I had the most fun when there wasn't any gimmicks, just you, Crash, and some hardcore platforming. Also, I am disappointed a game all about masks left out Uka Uka. Okay, well maybe they will have all the masks in Crash 5. At the end they left a pretty big cliffhanger, so there better be a Crash 5. Still, after playing this game, I think I am over the Crash hype. When you love something, then someone else makes a version of it, but takes a lot of creative liberty with it, it's just not the same. I sort of felt that way with the Crash remakes, but this game definitely solidified that feeling for me. And where the hell is Tiny? He's the best character. That is just a personal gripe of mine, but still. So what's my final score of the game? I spent $60 on this game, but I think it's a $40 game. But if this wasn't a Crash game or was a standalone Crash game, I would give it $50 out of 60.